Welcome to Leading Through Crisis, a conversation series exploring the idea of leadership in challenging times. Hi, and welcome to Leading Through Crisis. I'm Celine Williams, and I'm here with Irina Benedict, who helps CEOs heal strained business relationships so they can continue to grow unimpeded. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Celine.
I'm really interested to hear, because you work with CEOs and business owners and people at that level, I'm really interested to hear your perspective, either from your own experience as a leader or from dealing with leaders right now, how they are coping with or what's coming up for them inside of this crisis, but leading through it, because like all things, it will end at some point.
Yes, a very good question. I mean, it's on everybody's mind. So the main thing is, everybody goes through stages. So when the crisis came, there was a lot of fear, a lot of, oh my God, then you are into it. And once there is that initial stage that we're all afraid, there is, and I teach that we have to feel all of our emotions. Like being afraid is a human emotion, and as long as we're human, we will be. So the initial is that fear that rises up. And then is the next moment when you take a hold of that and say, I am afraid. What am I afraid for? And I advise, when I work with clients, we have to list all of them that I would lose. Like I have some people that they have their business in their own commercial business. So they're holding both the mortgage and the business. So they are afraid of losing the commercial business, losing the business. So what are you afraid of? And once you put down what you're afraid of, then this fear, which is kind of a monster hanging around you, becomes a list of things that you can then start to manage. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Because we can't, if we don't know what it is, if we haven't named it, we cannot be aware of it to change anything or to move through it or to process it or whatever. So making that list and being really specific about what it is, not just fear, because fear is nebulous and could be anything.
And for example, this is like a practical client that I'm working with, the one with the business, and her business is in telecommunications. So it's an essential business. So it has to stay open. So once she listed all of the things down, then we were able to look into it. So the mortgage was put on hold. So the practical things. So when the fear arises, acknowledge it and put things down. Now the next is that you can always have a choice. And you probably read the book about the being in a Nazi camp, a man's search for meaning.
Joseph Frankl.
Yeah, which that quote stuck with me ever since I read that book maybe 15 years ago. And it's like, you can take everything from a man or a woman except the choices that they make in the difficult times. And this choice is with all of us in the difficult times.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, a story, my mom this summer fell down the stairs and broke some bones. And she was visiting me in Canada. So she was a visitor. Luckily, we had insurance. So when I heard the yell and the thump, I went and looked, and the fear kind of overcame me. And in the next moment, I snapped out of it because I needed to be the leader. So that's why I have goosebumps. I invite all the leaders to acknowledge and then make the choice. Make the choice, because what I very quickly realized because of my training and because how I train my mind is I cannot change the fact that she fell down the stairs.
Right.
That was a given. The same with the virus, and the same with what happens in the business. We cannot change the fact that there has been a major disruption. No matter how much we whine, complain, or moan, done. It's done. It's happened.
Yes.
But when you stand up to the leadership in this present moment, what is it the best I can do? And in that case was for me to call 911. And in the case of the leaders, is to call the unemployment, is to call the bank, is to call on coaches, consultants, advisors, to call on them and to try to solve the problem. So the choice.
I think the choice is a really important piece. I think it's a really important element of what's happening right now, because so much of what's happening feels like it's not a choice, like it's happened to us. And it's really easy to get stuck in that very, reactive limbic brain place where we are the victims of the things that are out of our control, that we are not choosing, which then limits what we think we can choose. And I think it's a really valuable point to emphasize, is that shifting into what are the choices, what can I choose now? Because no matter what's happening, we can always choose a reaction.
Exactly.
Or a response, rather, because I like response versus reaction when we're making a choice in it.
Exactly. And it's very, very important. And also, when you are in a situation that is Christ-like, like a crisis, like my mom falling down the stairs, or this situation, the only thing you can do is to make the future as good as it can be. So if we have a certain amount of energy, if we take this energy and put it to the past, we have very little energy to function on this present moment. But if we forget the past, because what's done is done, we cannot change it, and we take all the energy and look into the future, we don't have to look way into the future, like what's happening in September, because we don't know. We hope we'll get out of this in a month maybe. But we need to look at the immediate future, especially when we're in a crisis. So my immediate future with my mom is for her to get to the hospital without moving her in ways that could damage her more, right? So that was the immediate future. And then once we got to the hospital, the next immediate future is that she's going to be diagnosed and has the x-rays and stuff that they know, right? So when you are in a crisis, you're looking to the immediate future. What can you do to stabilize the situation? Because if we look too far out, we freak out. Like if I was thinking, oh my God, can she go back home? Which was 2 months from the accident. I didn't know that. So my brain would have freaked out. So in a crisis situation, you look at the immediate future.
Which I think is sometimes really challenging for CEOs and leaders, because they are called upon to plan so much further out, to have that strategy laid out. And that shift from, I can't really create a strategy for next year or for the end of this year or for September right now. I need to be dealing with the choices that are in front of me, and the what is really happening now is I think it's quite challenging.
Yes, the challenge is for me too. Like I'm thinking about my end of June event, and I'm putting it out of my mind right now. I don't know.
So how, when you're working with people, and when this sort of thing is coming up, how do you help them make, because it is a mindset shift, right? It's not just as easy as saying, well, I'm only going to focus on the future, and that, like, it is a mindset shift, because what we are dependent on, or what people expect from us as leaders, has shifted, which means our mindset needs to shift in these moments. So how, or is there a way that you help people shift into that, or become aware of it? Or do you have any suggestions of how people can be, you know, comfortable as possible inside of the shift as it's happening?
Yeah, I asked the question, what if this was a blessing? What if we can think about, if this was a blessing, what would that be? And then I pause so people start to think. So I have a client who she has a like a hair salon, and which is closed, right? And she had something going on with the bank. If this crisis didn't happen, she would have had a personal crisis, but because of the crisis, now there is an extension that she can recover. So any one of us, so when you look at it, it can be a blessing. And because I gave the example with my mom, I was thinking, what's good about this? And honestly, I don't like hospitals. I've never been in hospitals, and I had to be there 24/7 to translate. So I had to really dig in order to find what's good about it. What's good about it, it bonded me and my mom. My mom is 77, and and towards the end of the life, so that bond, it bonded us. My mom was treated in Canada, which was, it's a good country to be treated in compared to Romania. It's a bit harder there, being an ex-communist country. So there were very many positive points, like my mom thanking me for helping her, which was actually the first time in my life that I received a sincere, heartfelt thank, an acknowledgement for the work I do. Like, I do my work with my clients, but my mom doesn't know that work intimately. And she saw that intimately, and she understood, because I used to be in nuclear engineering on a very high pay, like director level. And when I quit to become a coach, my mom couldn't understand. So we never had that resolve. But when she saw my ability to maintain energy and to hold space, she got it, and she thanked me in a way that was very touching, actually.
That's phenomenal. I love, so I'm very happy to hear that, because I think it's always important that we get acknowledgement from people when they see that. So very I think it's really powerful that your mother saw and acknowledged that. And I think it's also really important that to note that it's okay to see the positive and to see the blessing and to see the potential even in difficult times. It's not, we don't have to focus on the negative. We don't have to be in the mucky muck of a situation only. We can both feel that and be afraid and be in the muck and have that concern and say, look at this positive thing right now. Look at this potential outcome. Look at the possibility inside of it.
Yeah, and it was not even fake, because once I decided that I'm stepping into leadership, I accepted. She fell down the stairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had the moments when I wanted to ask myself, because I work a lot. So if I would have stopped my day and maybe be with her, you get all of those thoughts. But with the crisis that we're facing now, none of it was our choosing.
Sure.
And the people, I fully believe, and I'm talking directly into the camera to the leaders who can stay safe in themselves, who can make the choice to lead into a positive future, those are the businesses that will survive. And after this has passed, you will take your business further. That's what I fully believe.
It's a great reminder, because I don't think everyone is feeling that all the time. And I think there's a lot of negative media out there saying differently.
Stay away from media. I haven't watched news since 9/11, honestly.
Yeah. I also do not watch news. I don't get newspapers. I'm informed, but not through those sources.
Yeah, I don't watch news. And the fear doesn't solve anything, because as you said earlier in the interview, you get to the limbic brain when you're in fear, and you don't want to be making decisions from that brain. You want to be making decisions from a powerful being that made you the leader in the first place. You probably took leadership because you have courage. You took leadership because you have knowledge. You took leadership because you have a vision. And those are the things to remind yourself during those times. And the less negative intake that you take from the world, the more you have to know your vision, I think. And especially when you are a leader of a company, you had a vision, and that's still your vision. This is what I have discovered by talking with my clients, because we set goals at the beginning of the year, right? So they were like big goals, and let's achieve this and that. And when we tuned in, when we really analyzed, those goals are still valid. They are not going to happen the way we thought they are going to happen, but they are going to happen maybe in a more beautiful way that we haven't foreseen.
So I love that. I talk a lot about it's really important to set an intention. Call that a goal, whatever. I don't care what you're going to call it, right? It's really important to set an intention that this is what I would like the outcome to be. This is my intention. And it's just as important to detach from the outcome looking a specific way or getting there a specific way. I think when we can hold the space for the intention and then go, it may not happen the way I thought it was going to happen, but I'm still going to hold that space for the intention. I think that is a really powerful place to come from. And I think it's true even inside of a large organization. You know, if I have a team that I'm working with and I can create the vision and I can create, you know, this is where we're going, and then release how we get there, excuse me, or the timing of it or whatever it is, that's the really powerful thing to be doing.
Exactly. So let's say a team had the goal to bring a culture that where people are working together and understanding together. Well, in a time of crisis, people are more open to one another. So maybe it's an easier goal to achieve than when everything is nice and dandy and people are fighting over who's more important, you know? So if you look at the goals, and my client with the hair salon, basically our goal with her was that she opens a franchise. But because she was so busy working in her business, like she was not working on developing the franchise curriculum and the franchise system. So now she's home and that's what she's doing.
There's opportunity inside of this. So because you specialize in, or one of, not the only thing you specialize in, but one of the things you specialize in is helping CEOs heal strained business relationships. How are you seeing this affect those relationships, or what are you seeing? And I'm guessing that there's positive and negative because it's always a balance. But what are you seeing happening with business relationships specifically right now?
Yeah, so the business relationships that weren't that great to start with are really struggling in a crisis because, let's say, so if there are two business partners or three business partners, you have to make financial decisions, and some of those decisions are not easy decisions to make.
Sure.
And different people have different opinions. And if you add the fear to that, it's not easy. Like it escalates. So, you know, in a calm times, a relationship is iffy. When they add fear to it, it's almost like you add fuel to the fire. So it's a little bit harder, and the conflicts are a little bit deeper, unfortunately.
For those who are experiencing that, because I think I don't think that's super uncommon right now. Even inside of large organizations, I think that if you'll have the senior executives who are in different places emotionally and dealing with things differently. And I've seen that in clients.
Mhm.
Do you have any suggestions of what people can do to not make that worse right now?
Mhm. So what I say is that you have to focus on your vision. Like, what do you really want? Like, what do you want for your department or for your business? And when you make the what you want, and usually a business owner, like let's say there has three partners in a business, they all want the same thing. They want the business to succeed or to keep afloat during this crisis, not to lose money or to not to lose clients, not to lose capacity. So if you establish the common goal, like this is what we want to be safe, we want to preserve some cash, we want to, because some businesses have to lay off people, right? So that's another topic I talk about, like who do you lay off, who do you keep? Then the common vision is understood. And also, as each person have to ask themselves, what is important for me? Like, what are three things that are really important that if I can get? And sometimes that's why I specialize on it, because it needs facilitation.
Mm-hmm.
And generally I work with one of the partners, maybe either the biggest shareholder or the person who has the most influence, because I believe that is each and every one of us energy that influences how we deal with things. So if I'm the CEO and I have 60% of the shares and other people have less, and I host this hostile, it's my way or the highway, then hostility and anger energy only attracts the same. So I'm working with people to maintain their individual leadership. So in a corporate situation where you have different department heads, leads, they need to achieve their department mandate. And as we say, the mandate may change through the crisis, but still they have a mandate for the crisis. And they feel that another leader in another department impedes on their ability to meet. Well, I don't know if you work with both or if you work with one leader, but the leader whom you're working with, I have to be very clear on the energy they output.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you output, I want to say aggressive energy, you will get resistance back. Because it's like that. What you push against, it pushes against you. So to be very clear on what is it that you need to achieve, what are the 3 things that you would like the other person to do in order to not have the push and pull, and then see how you can negotiate that. Is this helpful?
Yes, and I'm actually going to ask a question. So you said, what are the 3 things that the other person can do? Can it be, and this is just an open question, instead of what are the 3 things the other person can do? Can it be more about me? Like, what are the 3
Yeah, what are
that
the
I
3
need
things
out
that
of
I need
this?
to have that I need to have? Yeah, good point. So the thing is, what are 3 things that I need to have in order to not feel unhappy with the other person? Yeah,
Right.
what are my 3 requests kind of that this goes?
Yeah, and I actually really love that idea of having the 3 requests of being really clear. Like, in order for this to work for me, in order for this to feel good, here are my 3 requests. And I actually, me personally, I like the language of my 3 requests versus the 3 things I need, because the other person may not be able to do them. But by saying, I would like this thing for this to work, the other person can say, listen, that's not real because of the system we have or the money we have or whatever it is. But what we can do this instead. And then you have the ability to stay in the energy of the exchange rather than being like, well, if I don't get exactly what I want, I'm out, which is not, I know it's not what you're saying, but I can see some people who'd be like, well, if it's not my exact thing, I'm done. And I want to encourage people to not be in that energy either, to be in that exchange.
Exactly. And a very good clarification. And when the person who is upset, we need to have the desire to not be like, we need to have the desire to overcome that, because any energy of upset, of anger, of resentment, it's only taking our power down, right? Like, we want to be powerful leaders, we want to effect change, we want to change the world. And if we can maintain that power towards leading us towards our destiny, then we have big power. But if we take power and we say, this is to fear, this is to anger, this is to resisting that, then we have less power to actually achieve our full potential. So I think the key element, and that's why I work with certain people and I don't work with other people, the key element is, I want to do good. I want to be at peace. I want to succeed. It's not that I want to be right and I want to be peace and I want to put the other person down.
It's a very important difference. So I appreciate you emphasizing that. Um, Before we wrap this up, I just want to I like to end with a big question, which is there anything that you would like to emphasize from what we've spoken about, or that you didn't get a chance to say that you think is really valuable to any of the leaders who are watching or listening to this today?
Yeah, I think all of what I said, which is funny, but choose
Yes.
your response. Know that you're powerful and you can either give energy away or maintain it. And I always like to maintain as much energy as I can. It's not that I'm not frazzled at times, but I like to maintain as much energy. And then be very clear on what is the problem in the near future and focus your energy on solving those. And then you will focus your energy on solving the next. And this crisis will pass. I'm in a very positive expectation that this crisis is actually helping the planet heal. I've read some statistics that more people would have died from pollution than from the virus. So I'm looking at the positives of this. And we didn't choose it. It chose us. And it chose us to call us to a greater leadership that we knew it's possible. So be sure whatever you do now, you're going to be very proud of yourself as a result of this. And I think that's a success.
I agree. And I would emphasize that having that as a frame, I tell people this all the time, that my frame is when I make this choice based on the information I have now, not judging myself in the future, but with the information I have now, in 6 months, am I still going to be proud of the choice that I made based on the information I had in that moment? And as long as I am, and as long as I'm constantly making that a choice from that place, then I'm always going to be moving forward in a positive and productive way. So I love that is what you ended on, because I think it's super valuable. So I want to thank you again for joining us. And for anyone watching, there will be a link to Irina's LinkedIn in the show notes of this episode. And you can message her there to book a strategy call if you'd like to talk to her about any of this more than what we've discussed here. And I highly encourage you to do it, because Irina is obviously brilliant. And I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. Thanks for listening to us talk around leadership in challenging times. If you would like to learn more about us or any of our guests, you can find us online at www.leadingthroughcrisis.ca. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts from.